Chase Bank infinite money. Scam leaves users with huge debts. A TikTok trend tricked users into believing they could exploit a Chase Bank ATM glitch for endless free cash by depositing fake checks and withdrawing money before they were cleared. The scam has backfired with Chase freezing accounts and imposing massive negative balances. So, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, bro. This is so dumb. You're gonna go to a bank, commit literal wire fraud, check fraud, and then hope it's gonna go well for your account. I mean, honestly, man. You play real quick?
Nah, I said it's heavy. Niggas is lined up. No, this shit is elephant. No, only let niggas in 1x1. Nah,
bro. Yeah, so there's a guy that did this scam, and he wanted to get the money to take his girl on a trip. I'm just like, bro, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, that makes no sense. Oh my God. That's sad. Really sad.
Is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think I need to go through how stupid this is, but every single person that attempts this is going to put themselves on the hook for wire fraud, which is 18 U.S.C. 1343, which is a federal charge. It's actually one of the easier charges to prove, and it's like one of the ones, the staple federal charges they use when they're trying to press charges against you. So these people that are doing this are idiots. But again, you know, it amazes me how people are okay with committing acts of fraud, stealing, taking people's money that doesn't belong to theirs. It's like there's no shame, there's no guilt, right? And we live in the United States where no one gives a fuck. It's crazy to me. Like when I was in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, there was no crime there. No one stole. No one did any of this shit. And it's because like there's shame, there's rule of law, there's really strict standards, especially for immigrants. Immigrants get punished way more than natives. Like we need to go to that system. We need to have very strict punitive measures for people that break the law. People are always like, oh yeah, like let's go easy. Let's like legalize marijuana and let's let people like use drugs and shit. Like, no, fuck that, man. Fuck that. Like, we need to put people in jail and lock away the key. I'm a big proponent of strict law enforcement, putting people in jail, locking them away. Like, especially if they do dumb shit like this. Like, bro, get these criminals the fuck out of here. You guys ever been scammed before? It sucks. Sucks. You know how many times I've had like, I look and like my credit card was used at a fucking Apple store randomly somewhere in Minnesota, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? It's because fraud. It's the fastest growing crime in the United States. When I was leaving the feds, like a lot of these drug traffickers, a lot of these people that were doing this, the violent crime, whatever, they were all shifting to fraud. Why? Because with fraud, you do 2 to 5 years at most, right? You're not gonna go to like a high level security prison. It's harder to catch you. Not as many agencies investigate it. This is a fucking problem, man. Like we need to fucking come with stricter laws for fraud because it's a very fast growing crime. And people over here stealing people's bank accounts, destroying their livelihoods. Fuck that shit, man. We need to go hard on crime in every single way. I was at the RNC, right? Little story time for you guys. I was at the Republican National Convention, and I ran into Mayor Giuliani there. And for those of you guys that don't know, he was the mayor of New York City in the 90s. And that I was a kid there, and my dad was a cab driver. When my dad came to the United States, he was a cab driver. It was his first job that he had. And while he was a cab driver, one of the worst times you could be a cab driver in the United States in the early, in the 80s and the early 90s. And matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think 1990 was the most violent year in New York history for murders. Can we Google real quick murders in New York City? It's going to come up on Wikipedia, the amount of murders. I think 1990 was the most violent year. And my dad had been like robbed, ran over a few times, once or twice. He broke his leg. And it was just ridiculous, man. This was a very dangerous time to be a cabbie in New York City. And Giuliani came in and, you know, he started enforcing the law way harder. He hired more police officers. They started doing, you know, stop and frisks, all this other bullshit, which like, oh my God, this is so controversial. Look, man, if you're not a fucking criminal, it's not a fucking problem. I don't see anybody bitching about it unless they're criminals, okay? I don't give a shit. You want to pat or frisk me, whatever it may be, because I might look like a certain person that ran away. Cool, do it real quick. Oh, I'm not a criminal. Woo! Just go on about my day. Like, especially during that time, it was a fucking terrible time. So, he went really hard on crime. And when I met him at the RNC, I actually shook his hand and I thanked him because had he not went so hard on crime, I don't know what the fuck would have happened to my dad. So I have a very big issue with crooks. Bills, pull it back up. Let's look at murders. Type in murder rates in New York City. Because I wanted to show everybody this shit is fucking wild, man. Like, New York City now compared to back then, bro, it was way worse, man. Just type murders in New York City and then wiki or something like that. Because I remember I found it one time and it was like just super easy to read.
Shit, New York is bad now. Can't imagine.
Well, it used to be worse.
As well. And it's dirty.
Yeah, try that one. Category of people murdered in New York City. Okay, scroll down. What the fuck?
Bunch of names.
I had a chart one time. All right, I could find it. And then, but what else, Fresh? Do you have anything you want to say about this as well?
Yeah. So it's crazy because this actual activity, you know who's a predominant race that followed it on social media?
Who?
People. I was just like, hold on. You're willingly going to record yourself.
It was that when you had years in New York, and then scroll down, it's going to say murders by year. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So you're willingly going to record yourself committing crimes, and it's like, how many times do we have to do this to ourselves as black people? We go about talking about killing each other, rapping, and then a trend comes around where you actually committing fraud on camera, and you go do it, and you brag about it. That is sad, bro. I can't believe you guys are that dumb to go follow a trend. I'll put you in jail on camera. America's just
so if you look, 1990 was the highest. 2,245 murders in a year, New York City. And then 1991 right after, 2154. Fucking crazy, right?
That's a lot.
Yeah. And that's the period that my dad was a cab driver in New York City, one of the worst times to be. So when Giuliani came in, he cleaned up the city, man, a lot, and it made it a lot better. So I shook his hand and thanked him for that shit when I saw him. It sucks what's going on with him now. They indicted him in Georgia, and the stupid ass lawsuit for the election. But yeah, and actually he's a legend, man. He was instrumental in going after the La Cosa Nostra, the mafia. He was the first prosecutor to put into effect the RICO Act. He didn't put it into effect, but he was the first one to effectively use it to target the mafia in the 80s. So there was a big indictment, I think, in 1985 of the mafia. And yeah, I think it was 85. Double check that for me, Bills, real quick. Mafia indicted New York City Giuliani. I think the first one was 85, where all the heads of the 5 families were indicted.